Hello everyone, welcome to Apti Plus Academy for Civil Services. It's a video on monthly policy review which is released by PRS Legislative Research, and monthly policy review is also known as MPR commonly. I'll be discussing MPR for the month of August 2022. MPR is something very important for the prelims and means examination. In this session, we'll be mostly looking into the laws, bill, and other important news that is relevant for both prelims and mains examination. So without any further delay, let's get started. And before I start, just to tell you a brief about the PRS Legislative Research. It was founded in 2005. It is an independent research initiative. It aims to strengthen the legislative process, and it supports the member of parliament and member of legislative assembly to assist them in getting the policy debates. Right? For more details, you can refer to their websites also. And if you're new to our channel, do not forget to subscribe Apti Plus Academy for Civil Services on YouTube. If you like this video, if you find this video informative and helpful for your examination purposes, do not forget to press a like button. So starting this session with the first news, the first bill, that is Energy Conservation Amendment Bill 2022. This type of news or bills related important information is very much relevant for your prelims examination and the mains examination, right? So we'll understand and see the details and the changes that has been made in the energy conservation bill. So the Energy Conservation Amendment Bill 2022 was recently passed by the Lok Sabha. And what was the purpose of this bill? We'll see the detail, but before, the bill seeks to amend the Energy Conservation Act of 2001. So this is again a factual information, and the Act aims to promote the energy efficiency and the conservations. It also provides for the regulation of energy consumptions by various equipment, appliances, building, and industries. Right? So this is how the regulation for the entire energy consumption will be looking into consideration. Now, key features की अगर बात करें इस बिल की, so first is obligations to use the non-fossil source of energy. So with this bill, with this act, it empowers the central government to specify energy consumption standard. जो consumption standard है energy की वो central government decide करेगी and it will accordingly specify that. The bill adds that the government may require the designated consumer to meet the minimum share of energy consumption from the non-fossil sources, right? So it is essentially required कि जो non-fossil sources जो consumption pattern energy consumptions है वो एक minimum share हर एक consumer अपने से contribute करे. Now designated consumer, what are the designated consumer? What does it mean in this particular bill context? So industries such as mining, steel, cement, textile, chemical and petrochemicals, ये जो industries इस चीज से related हैं, they will be the part of the designated consumer. उसके अलावा transport sector including railways, commercial building is specified in the schedule of this bill. Now, failure to meet the obligations of the use of the energy from the non-fossil sources will be punishable offense, and it will mount to a penalty of 10 lakh rupees. So this number, this amount, penalty amount is again important. It will also attract an additional penalty up to twice the price of the equivalent energy consumed above the prescribed norms. So these are some of the penal provisions that has been envisaged under the new amendment bill. And the other important feature of this bill is carbon trading. So the bill will empower the central government. So the bill has given the power to the central government to specify the carbon credit trading scheme, right? So what is carbon credit? This is something again important for the prelims examination, and these are some of the basics that you must know. Carbon credit की अगर बात करें, carbon credit implies a tradable permit to produce a specific amount of carbon emission. तो यहाँ पे permit दी जाती है कि कोई भी individual entity एक specified amount of carbon emission कर सकते हैं. Right? The central government or any other authorized agency may issue the carbon credit certificates to the entities registered and complained under the scheme. तो जो पूरे compliance को follow करेगी उनको ही ये permission दिया जाएगा. Right? For example, if you look into this, एक example जो मुझे भी ध्यान आ रही है, this is दिल्ली मेट्रो की एग्जांपल अब यहाँ पे ले सकते हैं, which is again given the permission to trade, right? Basically, they have been permitted to go for the carbon certificates. Now, the entities will be benefited to entitled to purchase or sell the certificate. जो entities होंगे वो entitled होंगे तो वो purchase कर सके या sell कर सके. And any other person may also purchase the carbon credit certificates on a voluntary basis. So this is with regards to carbon trading, very important points, even important for the prelims examination. Now, conservation energy code for the buildings की बात की गई है. The act empower the central government, basically दोनों पास central government के पास है, to specify energy conservation codes for the building, and the code prescribe energy consumption standard in the terms of area, right? And the bill amend this to provide that for an energy conservation and sustainable building code. So this can again be an important question in the mains examination about the sustainable building code. And the new code will provide norms for energy efficiency, conservation, use of renewable energy and other requirements for the green building, right? तो अगर energy conservation code की बात करें for building, you can specify and specifically use in the examples also. Now the other news, the other important bill, that is the draft coal logistic policy 2022. So recently the Ministry of Coal has released a draft coal logistic policy for the common purposes. And this coal logistic referred to the transport of coal from the origin to the destinations in a single multimodal mode of transportation. In India, basically, with regards to the coal logistics, still we do not have state-of-art technology. Even the basic amenities that is required for the interiors of the mining is not there, right? So it is very important that a coal logistic has to be developed in such advanced manner that it is uniform across the country. Now, this includes the storage, loading, unloading for the delivery of coal to the various sectors such as power plants and cement industries where the coal is mostly being used. Objective की अगर बात करें इस पॉलिसी की, it will ensure for the availability of adequate coal evacuation infrastructure. सेकेंड है ऑप्टिमाइजिंग द लॉजिस्टिक कॉस्ट, जो लॉजिस्टिक कॉस्ट है उसको ऑप्टिमाइज करना, प्रमोटिंग द मल्टी मोडल नेटवर्क फॉर द ट्रांसपोर्ट एंड द ग्रीनर ट्रांसपोर्टेशन. So some of the green technology will also be incorporated under this policy. Modernization of logistic infrastructure through the use of technology. Again, advancement of technology is essentially required for the coal logistic parts. Some key features of this bill की अगर बात करें, so reductions in the coal logistic cost. The draft bill seeks to reduce the coal logistic cost in several ways. First, it will aim to plan for the construction and use of shared evacuation infrastructure in the mine allocated processes. दूसरी जो important aspect है, that is regulating the railway freight rates for the coal, which is again economical for many businessmen. Making rail sea routes more competitive vis-a-vis all rail routes. तो रेल रूट के साथ जो सी रूट्स हैं उसे भी एक्सप्लोर करने की ज़रूरत है, राइट? And even using smart coal logistic corridors that have a real-time information about the entire logistic supply chain that will call for the tracking system, right? यहाँ पे जो tracking system है उसको improve की जाएगी so that the entire process is known and transparent. Multimodal network of transport. The policy proposes to formulate a multimodal integrated national coal evacuation process. यहाँ पे टेक्निकल सपोर्ट यूनिट बनाई जाएगी एंड an interministerial committee will be set up for the formulation of this plan, right? So this is again an important point. Take a note of this. While formulating the plan, issues will be taken up with the relevant ministries, state government and other stakeholders. Now the implementation of the plan will be monitored by the IMC, that is the Interministerial Committee. So ये आपसे पूछा जा सकता है कि जो टेक्निकल सपोर्ट है या जो इंटरमिनिस्ट्रियल मीटिंग है पूरे प्रोग्राम की इम्प्लीमेंटेशन कौन करेगी. So IMC or the Interministerial Committee will be the correct answer. Now other news, that is regulatory framework for the digital lending, which was again envisaged by the RBI. Recently, the Reserve Bank of India has released the regulatory framework for the digital lending, और डिजिटल लेंडिंग अगर डीएल की बात की जाए, ये एक ऐसी इंपॉर्टेंट टॉपिक है जो आपके प्रीलिम्स में, इवन फॉर द प्रीलिम्स एंड फॉर द मेंस एग्जामिनेशन, दिस इज रेलेवेंट, राइट. So the framework is based on the report of the working group on the digital lending. Basically RBI की तरफ से एक वर्किंग ग्रुप बनाई थी जिन्होंने अपने recommendations दी है with regards to the digital lending. And the other important concern here is regarding the privacy of the digital lending. Right? Even for any digital purposes, अगर बात करें डिजिटल करेंसी की भी बात की जा रही है आरबीआई की तरफ से, उसको लेकर के भी जो इंपॉर्टेंट एस्पेक्ट्स है, सिक्योरिटी कंसर्न्स है, इंफ्रास्ट्रक्चर डेवलपमेंट है, आप एक टॉपिक को अगर कवर करें, हॉलिस्टिक कवर करें, ताकि आप एक से एक पर्टिकुलर टॉपिक से 2-3 क्वेश्चंस टाइप को आराम से कवर कर पाएं. द रेगुलेटरी फ्रेमवर्क फोकसेस ऑन द आरबीआई regulated entities such as bank and lending services provided, that is LSP, engaged in such entities for credit facilitation services. Now features of this framework, जो आरबीआई ने फ्रेमवर्क बताई है उसके क्या क्या इंपॉर्टेंट फीचर्स हैं. So customer protection is the single most important point here. All जितने भी लोन है जो डिस्पर्स किए जाएंगे and the repayment are to be executed between the bank account and the borrower and the regulated entities. No third party entities will be allowed here. Only the entities registered with the RBI can only functions, right? Loan cannot be passed through or pooled in account or lending service provider or any other third party. So these are, and basically this will not be allowed. This is completely prohibited. Any fees or charges payable to the LSP will be paid by the regulated entities and not by the borrowers. And all inclusive cost of the digital loan is equivalent to be the disclosed to the borrowers. So this is how it will actually function. Now data protection, जो मैंने आपको स्टार्टिंग में बताया, बहुत ही इंपॉर्टेंट इशू है अगर डिजिटल करेंसी या किसी भी तरह की डिजिटल लेंडिंग की बात करें. So the data collected by the digital lending applications should be need based and a clear audit trail and need to be done with the explicit consent of the borrower. जो borrower है उसकी explicit consent चाहिए होगी, then only they can share the details. कई बार आपने ऐसा देखा होगा, आपने किसी कंज्यूमर ड्यूरेबल शॉप से अगर कोई इलेक्ट्रॉनिक सामान परचेज किया है, then you get a call from that credit card department regarding that you required or not. So the data is being shared, right? Even that itself does not call for any kind of data privacy और किसी तरह की breach नहीं है, but then also the data is shared. यहाँ पे explicit consent of borrowers is essentially required. Now the borrowers may be provided with an options to accept or deny the consent for the use of specific data. So this would be the prerogative of the consumer or the borrower. Now all data should be stored in a server located only in India. Now reporting requirements की अगर बात करें, all loan sourced through the digital lending applications must be reported to the credit information companies, that is CIC, जो आपके सिबिल्स को भी रिपोर्ट करती हैं, मेंटेन करती हैं. Now all digital lending products extended by the regulated entities over the merchant platform will invoke short-term credit या फिर जो deferred payment है must be reported to the CIC. अगर किसी ने डिलेट की है पेमेंट को तो उसके बारे में भी जो रिपोर्ट है वो क्रेडिट इंफॉर्मेशन कंपनीज को देना मैंडेटरी होगा, सो दैट दे कैन कैटेगराइज द रिस्क अपॉन अ पर्टिकुलर कंज्यूमर, राइट, और अ कस्टमर. इलेक्ट्रिसिटी अमेंडमेंट बिल 2022. Electricity Amendment Bill was recently introduced in the Lok Sabha, and the bill seeks to amend the Electricity Act of 2003. The act regulates the electricity sector in India and sets up the center and the state regulatory commissions to regulate the interstate and intrastate matter respectively. So again, this is an important point. You can take a note of this. The bill has been referred to the Standing Committee on Energy for further scrutiny. कुछ key provisions की इस bill की अगर बात करें, multiple discoms in the same area will be allowed. So the act provides for multiple distribution license or discoms to operate on the same area of supply. This is a single most important point, right, for the prelims examination. The requirement for the discom is to distribute the electricity through own network, and the bill remove this requirement. अब bill ने क्या नई provisions add की है? It has added that the discom must provide a non-discriminatory open access to its network for all the discom operators on the same area on the payment of such charges. तो कुछ minimum charges जो हैं जो government decide करेंगे on that payment, it will be open to all the discom operators. So there will be no discrimination that is allowed, right? So the central government may prescribe the criteria for determining the area of supply. So this power lies with the central government. Now, power procurement and tariffs की अगर बात करें, upon the grant of the multiple license for the same area, the power and the associated cost at the pre and existing power purchase agreement, जिसको PPA भी कहते हैं, purchase power agreements of the existing discom will be shared between all the discoms. तो यूनिफॉर्म होगी, किसी से कम किसी से ज़्यादा लेने की कोई ज़रूरत नहीं पड़ेगी. Even this will call for transparency, right? And the additional power need to be shared with the other discom as well. Now, under the Act, in the cases where there is a multiple discoms in the same area of supply, जो SERCs होंगी, जो state की हैं, is required to specify the maximum ceiling or tariff. So this is to ensure that they are not charging and the uniformity of tariff is there across for all the discom. The bill adds that SERC will also specify the minimum tariff for such cases. Now there's a cross subsidy balancing fund which is there. So the bill adds that upon granting up of multiple license for the same area, the state government will set up a cross subsidy balance fund. Very very important point. Take a note of this. इसके ऊपर डायरेक्ट भी क्वेश्चन आपसे पूछे जा सकते हैं. The cross subsidy refer to the arrangement of one consumer category subsidizing the consumer to the of another consumer category, right? तो यहाँ पे ऐसी फैसिलिटीज होंगी जहाँ पे एक कंज्यूमर कैटेगरी सब्सिडाइजिंग जो है वो दूसरे कंज्यूमर के साथ एक्सचेंज हो सकती है, राइट? Even any surplus with the disbursal or the distribution of license on the account of the cross subsidy will be deposited into the fund, and the fund will be used to finance deficit in the cross subsidy for other discom in the same area or for any other area. So this is the cross subsidy balancing fund. Now, bill to prohibit weapons of mass destructions. The Weapon of Mass Destructions and Delivery System Prohibition of Unlawful Activities Act. This was 2020 bill which was recently passed in the parliament, and the bill amends the Weapons of Mass Destruction and the Delivery System for the Prohibition of Unlawful Activities Act 2005. तो 2005 की जो एक्ट है वो प्रोहिबिट करती है किसी भी तरह के अनलॉफुल एक्टिविटीज़ को, सच एज मैन्युफैक्चरिंग, ट्रांसपोर्ट और ट्रांसफर ऑफ द वेपन्स ऑफ मास डिस्ट्रक्शन रिलेटेड टू द वेपन ऑफ मास डिस्ट्रक्शंस एंड देयर डिलीवरी. सो वेपन ऑफ द मास डिस्ट्रक्शन आर बायोलॉजिकल, केमिकल और न्यूक्लियर वेपन. So these are strictly prohibited under the rules and laws. The bill bars a person from financing any prohibited activities related to weapons of mass destructions and their delivery system. Now, India has updated its National Determined Contribution, better known as NDC. So ये एक ऐसी important point है जो आपको mains and even for prelims दोनों के लिए ज़रूरी है. Recently, the Union Cabinet approved the updated National Determined Contribution 2015 की Paris climate change की अगर बात करें. So several countries including India has submitted its intended NDC जिसको INDC भी कहते हैं, right, to address the climate change issues. Now this was aimed at limiting the global temperature rise, preferably 1.5 degree above the pre-COVID level, खास करके pre-industrial level, just to correct it. This is the pre-industrial level, right? And at 2021 Glasgow conference, which was recently held, COP26 के नाम से जिसे जाना जाता है, India has announced certain revisions target to achieve the target by 2030. और net zero emissions की अगर बात करें, net zero emissions के लिए इंडिया ने 2070 की टारगेट रखी है. We'll understand that in the video. So changes in India's NDCs, emissions intensity of GDP, जो इंडिया की NDC में जो सबमिट किया है, the NDC submitted in 2015 provided for the reductions in emissions intensity of the GDP by 33% to 35% by 2030 compared to 2005 level. And the revised target seeks to reduce the intensity by 45% by 2030 कंपेयर टू द 2005 लेवल्स। तो ये कुछ एमिशन इंटेंसिटी को लेकर के बात की गई है। Now, power from the non-fossil sources, the 2015 target was to increase the cumulative electric power installed capacity from the non-fossil sources to 40% by 2030. These are some of the important points that you have to remember. आप इसे skip नहीं कर सकते, आपको ये याद रखना ही होगा। As of July 2022, India electric power installed capacity for the non-fossil fuel is 42%. The updated NDC increased this target to 50%. अभी 42% है, उसको further increase करके 50% की बात कही गई है। Now the other target achieved by 2030 that will be achieved by India was announced. So increasing the non-fossil energy capacity to 500 gigawatts, right? 500 gigawatts की बात की गई, reducing the carbon intensity of the economy by less than 45%. This is the another target. And further, India is committed to achieve the net zero emissions by 2070. So these are some of the significant updated target, which India has advocated for, and we can proudly say that definitely India will achieve it. And in the global arena, in all the multilateral forum, India can advocate that yes, the target that was actually set by India has been achieved successfully. Now, Supreme Court strike down the provisions of Benami Property Transition Act 1988. So recently, the Supreme Court has struck down certain provisions of the provision of Benami Transition Act of 1988. Benami transition की अगर बात करें, I think most of you must be aware how the Benami transition occur. The name itself suggests, and it includes that the transition where a property is held by or transferred to a person for which is considered was paid by to another person. तो किसी दूसरे के लिए, ऐसे इंडिविजुअल के लिए जिसके कोई नेम नहीं है या फिर सस्पिशियस के तौर पे किसी दूसरे के नाम पे परचेज करना बेनामी ट्रांजेक्शन्स पे काउंट होती है। Now the Act 1980 Act was amended in 2016 and the court was examining whether the 2016 amendment could apply retrospectively. तो क्या रेट्रोस्पेक्टिवली पीछे वापस जा करके इस तरह की चीज़ों को वापस से अप्लाई कर सकते नहीं, इसकी फिजिबिलिटी को लेकर के सुप्रीम कोर्ट ने बेसिकली बातें कही हैं। नाउ ऑब्जर्वेशंस बाय द सुप्रीम कोर्ट, द कोर्ट हैज ऑब्जर्व्ड दैट द अमेंडेड एक्ट was devoid of the criminal intent on the part of a person entering into the Benami transitions, and it however criminalized the act of one person paying consideration for the acquisition of property to the another person. इस तरह के एक्ट को criminalize किया है, and it has created a harsh provisions with a strict liability, right? And also the criminal procedures for amended act along with the quantifications of the proceeding over broad and operated without adequate safeguard in the place, right? तो प्रॉपर्टी अगर इस तरह से हायर पता चलता है किसी भी तरह से ईडी के थ्रू, इनकम टैक्स के थ्रू, वो उसको कॉन्फिस्केट भी कर सकते हैं, अपने कब्जे में ले सकते हैं, एंड विदाउट एडिक्वेट सेफगार्ड इन प्लेस। Now, with respect to the retrospective punishment, similarly, the Supreme Court has said that the provisions of retrospective punishment for the Benami transition as introduced in 2016 amendment was also held to be unconstitutional as it violate Article 20 of the Indian Constitution, right? Supreme Court ने बाकायदे कहा that the Article 20 provide that no person shall be convicted for an offence if he or she was not violated at the time of the commission of that particular act, right? तो ये एक्ट से पहले रेट्रोस्पेक्टिव करने में काफ़ी खामियां हैं, and even it is not feasible, right? Because the Constitution prohibit do so. And in light of this, the observation, the court ruled that the criminal prosecution or quantifications proceeding for the transaction prior to 2016 Act cannot continue. The Supreme Court has categorically said that it cannot be continued and can only be applied prospectively. तो retrospective की जो chances है उसको Supreme Court ने पूरी तरह से rule out कर दिया. So again, this can be very very important for your mains. Those of you who are appearing for mains this time, उनके लिए काफ़ी ज़्यादा relevant है. So this was all about for the PRS, and just to tell you a brief, जब भी आप PRS के videos देखें, you know, basically if you are watching the PRS videos, supplement it with a PIB video. So this will give you a comprehensive idea about the current affairs, the recent happening the bill that is there, all the news that is there will be completed, right? आप comprehensive अगर coverage चाहते हैं अपने current affairs की, तो PRS और PIB की वीडियो जो कि बहुत ही जल्द रिलीज होगी हमारे YouTube चैनल पे, उनको एक साथ देखें so that it give you a comprehensive idea, right? And we have lot more other initiatives for you like daily news and editorial analysis where I cover the newspaper, both the Hindu and Indian Express. आप IAS Gazette की मैगजीन हमारे वेबसाइट से डाउनलोड कर सकते हैं. FCA is there every fortnight, second Sunday and fourth Sunday. PIB video will be releasing very soon. I'm discussing MPR and the gist of Yojana and Kurukshetra for the month of August has already been released. You can watch that. So all this initiative will help you to sail through the journey of civil services. If you have any other concern, you can let me know. I'll be more than happy to assist you. For time being, I'm signing off. Thank you so much for watching this video.